Hey friends, your old pal Samwise here. I had a pun planned for this. You'll have to excuse me, I'm a bit snarky. My older daughter is in preschool, which means I have had about 80 bajillion sinus infections so far this year. Anyway, longtime followers of this channel will likely remember this item. It is my go-to UL backpacking stove, cook set, eating set, all in one. For those unfamiliar, I'll give you a quick rundown on it. I just got to a point where I was hiking longer and longer for day hikes, and I wanted to be able to maybe have hot food or hot drink at some point in time, and so I got this little stove and started fiddling with it. This stove began life as an Esbit titanium folding stove. One of those little emergency dealies that you just kind of keep in a back pocket. It runs on solid fuel tablets like trioxane or Esbit. Nope. It's not really designed to cook with. It's designed just to kind of heat things up as needed. And as such, it was not a very efficient design, but for some reason, I fell in love with it because I didn't want the bulk of a canister stove in my day pack. I wanted something that could heat up a cup of soup, a cup of coffee, some hot lemonade, a quick dehydrated meal, something that could keep me going. So I was doing, 20, 30 mile day hikes at this point in time. And so I began to experiment with this in ways to try and make it more efficient without adding a ton of weight. And that's where this all began. At its heart is this Esbit titanium folding stove. In its early days, this was just, my cook set was this pot, that stove, that's it. Then I decided I wanted to make things more efficient. I trimmed the pot stand off because I no longer need that pot stand. Instead, I have this, a Caldera Cone, which is designed for alcohol stoves, but it has not caused any issues at all with the Esbit. What the Caldera Cone is, it's a cone of high-grade aluminum foil with vent holes in the bottom to allow air in, vent holes at the top to allow hot gases to escape, and an opening just big enough for whatever cook pot you want. In this case, this is my Snow Peak titanium mug that I've had for, God, probably like 12 or 13 years at this point in time. And this is great because it traps the hot gases up against the sides of the cup, thereby transferring more heat into the water. Additionally, it has a reflective property to help reflect radiant heat back towards the cup. After switching to this Caldera Cone, I noticed an almost 30-degree jump in temperature of water by the time I was done with a single cube of Esbit. Previously, it would bring water to effectively a high simmer, not even a hard simmer, just a high simmer. Now it brought it to near boil. But I wanted to improve efficiency a little bit more, so I rang up my man Don over at Four Dog Stove, got this little lid on there. Lo and behold, I had a hard rolling boil in this cup for the very first time, and I fell in love with this as a camping tool. To make it more camping friendly, I have this Ham Hock Outdoor Gear Reflectix koozie. Unfortunately, Ham Hock is no longer in business, but I will link to an alternative manufacturer in my comments below. This is just made out of Reflectix. It's designed to help trap heat up against, say, a bag of dehydrated food. So all I do, open it up, food goes in, water goes in the bag of food, seal it up, wait 15-20 minutes, and we're done. And then the only other item I use is this spoon. It's a Toaks titanium spoon with the polished bowl. I find that it cleans a lot easier. So this has been my setup. It's now 2 years, 200,000 miles. I don't know if it has not been that. But I noticed a few issues where I could improve efficiency. For starters, I realized that having one cup for everything was a problem. Let's say, for example, I wanted to have a hot drink, but I also wanted to heat up water for my dinner. That's a problem, isn't it? I can't have one cup doing two things at the same time. Additionally, let's say if I have water going, it's now hot enough to use, I take the cup out, there is still most of a fuel tablet down there. I could still get heat out of it, but instead of it going into this cup, it's going out into the atmosphere. Enter a second Snow Peak Titanium 600 cup. This one unlike this one, actually has the hot lips on it. This is a silicone insulator for drinking hot beverages. I threw the one that came with this one away because it was dead weight. I was an idiot. This one, I'm keeping it because it really makes drinking coffee a lot easier. So now I'm in camp, I'm heating up dinner, I'm minimizing the downtime of that fuel so that way I'm getting the maximum amount of heat out of it into my water. I now have a second cup to either eat or drink out of. It doesn't add a whole lot of extra weight, which I'm happy with, but that's the other thing. This system is now so efficient, I'm now only using half, 3/4 of an Esbit fuel tablet to heat up a cup of water. I don't want to let that go to waste, but I didn't have the capacity to store it. They kind of, you know, they're melty and hot and gross, and I don't really want to handle it. Well, for a couple of bucks, I went down to, I believe it was Rite Aid, got me a tin of wintergreen Altoids, and shared them with my daughter. She called them cakes, which I thought was really adorable. I mean, they do kind of look like cakes, it makes sense, but we got ourselves some Altoids and got a free tin in the process. It was pretty nice. And so this tin, I can use it to snuff out my flame, then put the stove all folded up with the extra fuel in it, store it, carry it. So all told, yeah, I added a little extra weight to this cook set. I haven't weighed it. It's probably maybe closer to 12 ounces at this point in time. I am absolutely happy with this stove. I could not make it any better. I do have some experiments in mind because I have recently switched to the Expedition Research Fuel tablets instead of the standard Esbit ones. I have thoughts on those, which I'll discuss later. As far as living with it, it's not been so bad. There were a few times where it was a little inconvenient lighting it in inclement weather. This is great, it's compact, it fits inside just the cup pocket of my backpack, which I love. It's lightweight, it's compact, it's reliable, it's quiet. That alone is my favorite. The fact that I can just get it going. I don't hear the roar of a loud backpacking stove while I'm setting up camp. I can just read a book and enjoy myself, and I'm not making a big disturbance. I love that element of it. I love that it's really foolproof, that once I get it going, I can just kind of let it do its thing. I can go set up my camp, and by the time my tent is together, I've got hot water ready. It's phenomenal. Downsides, it is a bit sooty. I will agree to that. I do clean this cup regularly, but it will be permanently stained up. You can see all the scratch marks in it where I've scrubbed. It is stinky. People often complain that the fuel smells like a fish and a stale fart had a baby. That is true. I have not found any way to improve that problem, but I've just gotten used to it. The gas that this produces when it's burning is toxic. So there was one time in my rainy weather backpacking trip video where I had to cook in the vestibule of my tent, and I did inhale some of those gases, and I had a gnarly coughing fit from it. This is definitely an open air kind of cook set. The other downside is that the fuel isn't easily sourced on my end, at least. It's harder to get the proper Esbit fuel tablets these days. I have to special order them in advance and make sure I keep a good inventory on hand. But that's really about it. So what began as a cool experiment to see if I could basically boil a cup of water with a really inefficient system turned into perhaps my favorite cook set I have ever had. And I have no further plans to improve on this. I feel like it's as good as it's ever going to be. I do have plans to see if I could get a liter of water to boil with one Esbit cube. I'm actually in the process of reaching out to GSI right now to see if maybe they might, cut me a sweetheart deal on a piece of equipment I want for that project. But that will require new equipment, new time. I'm excited for this one. It's going to be a lot like what Jimbo is doing over at Robot Cantina, where he's taking lawnmower engines and putting them in Honda Insights and things like that, because I really wanted to see how much heat I can get out of one of these things, and if I can turn what was a solo cook set into a family cook set, because I have a family. So, thanks for sticking around. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, leave mean comments in the comment section. My next episode will be part 2 of my 34th birthday backpacking trip extravaganza. Take care, everybody.